Welcome back to Beats on SABC Lehae. Bubbly, also known as hookah pipe, has been described as a silent killer that strikes many of its victims without any signs of poor health. The conditions suffered often lead to death. Many people, however, seem to be misinformed about the dangers of Bubbly as it has become popular over the years. For more on this, we are joined by Dr. Sidibe, and then in studio, we also have someone who uses the Bubbly. Her name is Sinelizwe, but we're going to start with the doctor. Let's start with Dr. Sidibe. What are the long-term health effects of hookah smoking? Does it cause, does it cause damage just like cigarettes?
Okay, the truth of the matter is that the hookah pipes are probably maybe even more worse off than cigarettes, and that we know because of the time that people spend smoking a hookah. It's usually quite a lengthy amount of time. Where if somebody is smoking a cigarette, it's a couple of puffs and then they're usually done. But yes, the damage that is associated with hookah smoking is literally the same with what cigarette smokers usually get.
Perhaps we can just also get to maybe what makes people to be addicted to hookah, because it seems to be very addictive, because I know a lot of young people who love to have it when they're having a good time. What is in it that makes it to be addictive?
Okay, so you're asking if hookah is addictive?
Yes, what makes it to be addictive? What's in hookah that makes it addictive?
Sorry, you keep on disappearing, you're saying?
Apologies for that. I wanted to understand what makes it to be addictive, because I see a lot of young people, they always have it when they're having a good time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same amount, not necessarily the same amount. With hookah, you get the flavors, and just like cigarettes, when you smoke a cigarette, there's strengths of nicotine, and the tar that is involved. It differs from brand to brand. Same applies to the flavors that is being used. Same thing that goes in there. The tar that goes into a cigarette, you'll find it there. Carbon monoxide that you'll find in there, it will be there. The nicotine, which is the addictive component as well of the smoking experience, which will be there in different varying quantities. So the same stuff that you get in a cigarette that makes it addictive is literally then the same stuff that you'll be addicted to when you're smoking hookah.
Now let's talk to Sinelizwe, who is right here in studio. I understand you're someone that, you use hookah, and perhaps just tell us your journey on it. When did you start smoking hookah, and how old were you? And take us how you feel when you're smoking hookah.
When I started smoking hookah, it was about like 3 years ago. I was 18. It was like a social gathering with me and my friends. And yeah, that's when it all actually started.
So is it something that you want to continue doing, even though I'm sure you've heard about the dangers of hookah, but is it something that you want to stop doing, or you just want to continue doing it?
I mean, I could stop, but like I don't really smoke it oftenly. Maybe like twice a month. Like you smoke it after like a long day because it actually relaxes you. You get to unwind a bit.
Let's talk about some of the side effects, if there are any, after smoking hookah, because I believe that just like when people drink alcohol, when they wake up in the morning, they have hangover. But let's look at hookah, because I don't smoke it, but then it smells very good, I must say. But then I'm sure it also makes you feel a certain way after some time. Please share that experience.
Okay, when I started smoking it, after like a while, I used to get like a little bit of headache. But when you get used to it, if you get people, like the people that are around you, they would say, when you're smoking hookah, you need to have like chew on something or drink on something. Then you won't feel those much of like side effects. And then also like another thing is when, yes, it actually does smell nice. That's what actually fascinates me, like the smell when you get like to blow the air and you can make C shapes out of the air, it depends on how you actually look at it.
And I've seen or I've observed that when people are having hookah, it's in a group setup,
Yes.
wherein you can pass it to the next person. Do you ever think of maybe health risks because now, you're passing it from mouth to mouth?
Yeah, we like at the back of your mind there is that, but because most of the time it's like around people that you think you trust, and you're like, maybe these people like they're healthy, nothing's actually going to happen. We're just having fun. Yeah.
All right, let's bring in the doctor, Dr. Sidibe, again into the conversation. If somebody's smoking hookah and I'm in the same room, can I get, am I in danger even though I'm not really smoking it, but I'm just in the room wherein somebody is smoking bubbly? Does it affect me?
Okay, so I always ask people to think of things this way. I used to smoke cigarettes, so I can talk about myself. So when you pull a cigarette, you pull it inside, it goes into your lungs, gets absorbed whatever you are getting, and then you blow it out. The contact time matters because, you've pulled it in for a couple of seconds and then it's out. Somebody who's sitting outside, you've exhaled this thing that still has much nicotine, as much tar, and now it's in a room. And then the person who's going to be breathing that smoke is going to spend more time with the smoke, and obviously will end up absorbing more of the nicotine and the substances that you don't want in your body. So if sitting in the same room, it does not alleviate you from the fact that you are smoking. You're probably even smoking more than the guy who's just inhaling and exhaling out.
So a hookah smoker takes about 100 puffs in a single session, while a cigarette smoker takes about 10 puffs per cigarette. So is hookah smoke better than cigarette smoke because it passes through water?
Well, the water is what forms, the smoke that you see at the end of the day. But it doesn't filter the substances, the unwanted substances that you need to have, the experience of smoking. So you must remember there's combustion there. So that's the heat from the coal, and then there's the tobacco, and there's the nicotine as well, and other substances like ammonia, hydrocarbons, that can form a whole vast of different problems. And I always say to people, you must never worry about the now. If you're still young and fairly healthy, you can smoke all you want. It doesn't show up now. The problems will start happening, and they will translate into something that you can see as you grow. A couple of years later, where now you find that your lungs are not as good as they're supposed to be. Maybe you find that now you might be having high blood pressure, you might be having heart issues, you might be having certain cancers, especially lung and throat cancer. And also people are suffering from a lot of respiratory tract infections, and sometimes they don't even know why they happen quite often. And we know that smoking actually does increase the risk of having these recurrent type of infections. And also to think about it as well, it messes up your immune system. So meaning if somebody is coughing there whilst you are busy smoking and they have TB, and the chances of you getting TB becomes even higher. So it is quite a risky practice. And then the last thing I want to talk about is actually a passing of the hookah to the next person. You must always imagine that you are actually kissing everybody in that room, because literally herpes from the one person can literally jump into you, and those are permanent infections that you cannot get rid of, unfortunately.
I'm sure you've heard that, Nelizwi. They're saying that when you pass this hookah pipe to the next person, you're literally kissing them. So I also want to understand, when do you know when it's too much, when you've had enough? I'm sure there's a limit, whether it's a session or it's an evening or whatever. When do you know that I have to stop?
I think it depends on you as a human being, on how you actually hold yourself. You know that at the end of the day, we do smoke hookah, and we also know the dangerous effects that come after it. It's on you to say, okay, I think I had enough. I think now I must stop. Because there are people that can smoke for the whole night. There are people that do not drink, they do not smoke cigarettes, but they're strictly on hookah pipe.
And I understand when you're doing something, you always think of the consequences. Does it ever come to you that perhaps maybe one day I should go visit the doctor just to check on my lungs. Does it ever come to you?
Not really, I don't want to lie. I think maybe I always have this excuse on my head that I don't really smoke it often. So yeah, I think I'm safe. And water is everything. You just think that when you drink water, like everything will just detox on its own.
And are you planning on like, smoking throughout your life? Because I believe at some point you're going to get married, I think. So do you think, as a granny, you'll be holding that hookah pipe, smoking and having a good time with your, granddaughters and your just grandchildren?
I don't think. I think as human beings we go. I think there will reach a phase where I'm like, okay, I need to stop this because I will have a family of my own. I can't be doing this in front of them or in front of my mom at times.
All right, I now have the last question to the doctor, Dr. Sidibe. Perhaps just tell us about, the side effects of mixing the flavor with marijuana.
Well, I mean, if you're mixing, people mix cigarette with marijuana to reduce the effect of marijuana. You should treat it the same. I think it's an enhancement. Marijuana is a recreational drug, so people would sometimes have a preference of actually adding marijuana to their hookah, which is a common practice actually. So yes, that obviously, if people are not aware and you are not likely to take on the marijuana very well, then it might be detrimental to your health. Some people need just one single dose of marijuana to show up that they have psychological disorders and things like that. So I think in terms of it being a social event, it's better to be informed if you're going to be consuming some marijuana, that you would want to know that you might be partaking in such.
Okay, maybe last question. As a general practitioner, is there any advice you have for hookah smokers? Should they continue smoking? Should they smoke, but should they have like limits? What's your take on that?
Sorry, I didn't get the first part.
I wanted to understand your message to hookah smokers in closing.
Yes.
Should they continue smoking, or but they can still have like a limit, or should they rather just stop?
Okay, so I'll talk from a personal experience. I used to smoke, and I've stopped now, I think about 8 months into it. And I can tell people that safely that I am a better person now than I was then. And cigarette smoking, nicotine intake, all of those tars and things like that do take a toll on your life eventually. They do have the ability to cut your life shorter than the average person that does not smoke. So my honest advice to anybody who does take nicotine and related substances is to honestly think about stopping. And the sooner you do it, the better. These are addictive substances. You might not appreciate that now, but you might appreciate it when you're trying to stop. And that's very important. And if you can seek help, we are always available to help anyone who wants to take on the journey to stop smoking.
Dr. Sidibe, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
And just in closing, I'm going to put you on the spot, Snelizwi. Here is someone who has never smoked hookah. Would you advise them to smoke it? Are they missing out on something, or would you rather tell them, you know what, don't even touch it?
Not really. They're not really missing out on anything. Yeah, like, don't touch it, nje. Like, do it at your own risk, knowing very well what are the repercussions of it. But every other person must just do it at their own risk, because it is out there, likhona, wonke umuntu uyazi ukuthi this thing, at the end of the day, it is dangerous to our health.
Iqiniso out there, likhona. Thank you so much, Snelizwi, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
For now, let us go to a break, and Pitso continues after this. hookah. Now we're going to talk about dialysis. We're continuing with the principles, types, and how it works, the side effects, and many more. To go deep into this matter, we're now joined by Dr. Chiridzindo from LeanMed Medical Center. Dr. Ndo, welcome to Pitso on SABC Lehae. Dr. Ndo, what is a dialysis?
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. The definition of dialysis is basically it's a procedure that is used to remove waste products and excess fluids from the blood system. This is usually done for patients that are having kidney failure or what we call renal failure in medical terms.
And let's also go back a bit to the causes of kidney failure. What causes that?
With kidney failure, in most cases, you'll find that the patient is having chronic medical conditions like your diabetes, hypertension, and HIV, and the other stuff.
And then when we talk about treatment of that, what can a patient expect after treatment? And also, is it something that is a once-off thing, or you need to go on to the doctor many times for consultation?
Depending on the type of the dialysis that is being done. So basically we are having two types, and then they both have advantages and disadvantages. So the first one is hemodialysis. That one requires a patient to go to a dialysis center for at least 3 to 5 days per week. So we also have peritoneal dialysis, which can be even administered at home.
Dr. Ndo, you spoke something about, dialysis centers, and in the beginning of this intro for this topic, we did mention that the South African Nephrology Society is worried about the state of some of these centers, perhaps because you are in the field of this issue of dialysis. Perhaps you can just tell us what are some of the issues that these centers of dialysis are facing in the country?
One of the challenges that we are facing right now is the late diagnosis, because most of the patients, you find that they are having problems, but they hardly consult. So we would encourage everyone, even if they are not on chronic medication, or even if they are not having a medical condition, to at least do one annual medical checkup with a preferable medical doctor.
So in terms of equipment as a country, are we well-resourced to be able to treat these, kidney failures? In terms of when you go to these centers, are we at par with other countries?
We're still experiencing challenges because when we look at the dialysis patients, some of them, they need blood transfusion in the process since their HB also drops. So the challenge would be then now the amount of blood that we need to request from the blood banks. So there's a huge burden.
And also, in your observation as a doctor, I believe in this practice, you've experienced, a number of patients. Do you think a lot of people in this country or patients that come to you are well informed about, kidney failure?
Not at all. Most of the patients, when you diagnose them with kidney failures, they start asking what exactly is that. So, and what it means to them, that the diagnosis itself, what does it mean? Is it a death sentence? Is it something that can be treatable, something curable? So they always have a couple of questions regarding the diagnosis.
And let's look at a specific diet that a patient has to follow in order to be healthy, or at least, live a better life.
We need the dietitian who would encourage us to eat a lot of high-quality protein diet, avoid or limit salt, phosphorus, and also potassium, because those can actually worsen the amount of waste products in our systems. So also, when we look at the patients that are already on the dialysis, we also restrict them from fluids because the kidneys are failing to get rid of the excess fluid from the body. So we restrict fluids to make sure that we don't increase the burden that the body is already having.
And you've mentioned that they need to take a food that has potassium. Perhaps you can just maybe also be specific. What kind of food are we talking about?
We are talking, when we talk about high quality protein diet, we are talking about foods like lean meat, poultry, fish, and also when we talk about the things that contain phosphorus, the canned or processed foods, that those are the ones that we are trying to discourage because they can worsen the situation of the waste products that are accumulating in the blood system.
Dr. Ndou, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
That is Dr. Ndou talking to us about the issue of dialysis in this country. Let us